Hello and welcome to Dinis Guarda, Cities ABC Open Business Council YouTube podcast series. We're here again to continue profiling some of the leading personalities in the world that are creating narratives and creating solutions or creative artwork and a lot of different things that show us new ways of looking the way we live, the way we can actually improve our society, and especially in this series, we've been profiling people that are always a bit of a step ahead of the game, trying to find the new directions in terms of specific industry or bringing some really very special personality or creativity areas. That's the case of our guest today. So I welcome to our series James Zhang, that is the creator of the concept art house. Welcome to our series, James.
Hello. Hi, Dinis.
So, pleasure to have you here. So, James, you have a fantastic CV and as well portfolio that touches art, creativity, and as well video gaming industry, but as well a lot of areas related with investment consulting and a lot of different hybrids. Let's put it that way. Yeah. So I want to, just for people listening to us, just a small overview about James. So James is an experienced executive and advisor in the gaming and tech sector. He's the founder and CEO of the Concept Art House, a leading creative services industry company for gaming industry. With over 20 years of experience in games and technology, James has held positions as a board member and a lot of other different areas of business, and as well as CEO, where he led this company from seed financing to a successful exit in 2012. He's as well a partner of a couple of consultancy companies and a lot of organizations, including Codex Protocol, Luna DNA, Hadron Cloud, and the list goes on, but especially platforms like Karetsu Capital Blockchain, that is an LP in Pantera, a blockchain capital, which are two of the biggest blockchain companies in the world. And what I'm particularly interested in, and this is going to be the purpose of the interview, is the bridge that James has been doing from the illustrations and all the creativity parts, then the work he's been doing in the gaming, where he actually, some of his artwork has won international awards, including several games based on Star Wars franchise. And then it's the third level that I'm particularly interested in is the bridge right now with the NFT world and the blockchain world, which James is as well quite an expert. So James, starting by the early stage, so how did you start your career? Because you have so much wealth of experiences that is quite unique for almost anyone in these industries.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, great to be here. Well, so many things to touch on just then. I'm actually, I've been doing this a long time in the gaming front. So my start in games goes back to 1998. I was at a game company called LucasArts, which was George Lucas's game company. I actually have some artwork I can show you guys later on, but I just love art my whole life. I'm one of the few like artist founded entrepreneur investors in I guess I'm in Silicon Valley. I don't know many of them, and I know a lot of people. And then all of that happened quite by accident. But make no mistake about it, first 5 years, I was drawing spaceships, aliens, all things nerd, and I really enjoyed myself. I became an art director. I got the entrepreneurial bug in me in early 2000s, 2005, 2006. And I founded Concept Art House in 2007. And we really haven't stopped doing work since then. So if you have a lot of gamers or gaming people in your audience, we've probably worked on a lot of games you've seen. And we've been doing this a long time. But for my personal career, artist, art director, and that was my passion and joy.
So I want to go to your childhood because it's not, it's not kind of very common to have someone, like you said, that is an artist, that is a gamer, and as well a technologist and an investor. So you have like multiple heads, which I admire a lot, which I share a couple of them. So and I think we see right now some of your wonderful art direction. But I would like to hear a bit, how do you start? I think from your early stage, because you have, of course, from Marvel to Star Wars, you don't need to say more after that.
Yeah, well, I'm sharing a couple of screens with you now, but like so many, I'm a Gen Xer. So like so many of us that grew up in the 80s and 90s. So I'm an immigrant from China. So I born in Beijing. I came to US when I was 9 years old, didn't speak any English, but it was the cartoons and toys that really spoke to me all the way back. And the funny thing about that is I think that generation I grew up, it was like the height of the action figure wave, Saturday morning cartoons. Like if you grew up in America, all of these things I'm showing you on screen, Dungeons and Dragons, X-Men, G.I. Joe, Transformers, Nintendo, what a great time to be a kid. And you will also notice that even today, Nintendo, Dungeons and Dragons, Transformers, Marvel, the biggest franchises today. So I think not just me, but a whole wave of people will really discover their passion and joy through these media franchises. So to me, it was my calling. I got into art school. These are some of my figure drawings early on. I was a reasonably good art student, got a good scholarship. I went to study in a school called Ringling School of Art and Design. And that's actually where I'm still a mentor. I'm actually sharing a deck with you that I share with the mentors every year. I still mentor the students. So hello, Ringling people. And then my first 5 years, it was easy. It was fun. I got this job that I always wanted, working on Star Wars things. So these are some of the aliens I've designed early.
Can you put it full screen? Because it's so cool. I want to be full screen if you would mind.
Sure. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So yes. I had, of course, this is way before any thought of blockchain, obviously. And these games are made in 1999 to 2005. So I helped on a few movies. I did
just one question here, James. So when you were doing this, you were doing both the art direction, but you were as well producing the game. So can you tell us about that process and how do you get into this?
Sure. So, well, I don't want to turn into a whole art segment, but I'll tell you, start with strong fundamentals. I mean, I had great teachers for me in art school, did a lot of work around figure drawings, master studies, guys like Jean-Auguste Dominic Ang and Egon Schiele for single figure compositions. And then later on, I studied illustration, looked at guys like Howard Pyle and Maxfield Parrish and those guys, Norman Rockwell. And then you got into the concept art. Like, this is still a really new industry. My first game I ever worked on was PlayStation Starfighter. This is the second logo here. That was for PlayStation 2. You have to remember the models, the 3D models that you play in the game. These are 3D games were a new thing, right? The 3D games have only been played for about 2 or 3 years at the time. So when I was designing spaceships, these were turned into little tiny models, but I could see them, what they would look like on the movie screens. So my job was a concept artist. So the process is there's the leader, a project lead for a game. They envision what the game should be. And to make a game successful, you need a few key things. You need great game design that makes it fun. You need great engineers that made the game work. And then you need great artists that made it cool. So I was part of the art team. So I would sketch out things like this. These aren't even the final drawings. And if it gets approved by my art director, then it gets made into the spaceship that actually went into the game. So that's the process of creating art. And I can do a whole nother 2-hour session on what that looks like. But these skill sets planted the seeds. I ended up like just coaching artists and being in magazines and doing talks around this. I mean, this is early, right? And I think I was the first wave of people that did concept art, which was a natural transition. I was good enough to have a lot of groups like Dungeons and Dragons come to me, and I could either turn down the work or I could hire a bunch of people to help me do the work. And that's really the origin story for Concept Art House.
And one of the things that I'm particularly interested in, being a big Star Wars fan myself. So you work with LucasArts, which of course was one of the cutting edge, both in putting the artistic part, the technology, and the digital all together and the gaming. Can you tell us a bit about how do you start the career probably there? I know that you have your career touched so much different areas, but I'm particularly interested for people listening to us as well.
Oh, sure. Yeah, let me advance up a little bit. Thank you for asking. So it was around 2006 and 2007. I had a lot of work as a freelance artist. And I could either turn down that work or I could hire people to do that work with me. So that was really the birth of Concept Art House. When I first started the company, there was no investment. There was a small team, about 5 people in China that I thought were very talented. So I would take in the work from US And I'll show you, this is a really embarrassing screen. The original team I have is here, and many of them went on to do great things. This person here, Pay One, is actually Senior VP of Blizzard now on the new Diablo game. They've gone on to do amazing careers. And every step of the way, we kind of grew, right? But we founded the company a long time ago. It took me 2 years to actually get the original angel investment. And we were just working out of like apartments. I mean, it was okay to do that in Shanghai. I had a very small team in US, but I learned, I got a lot more savvy as an entrepreneur. I learned to raise money. And my first investor was a very influential person in blockchain space. His name is Matthew Lemurl. He was a co-founder. He was the chairman of Telltale Games and the first investor, but he's basically like a co-founder to me. So he's still on our board 13 years later. So this is where we are today in US and San Francisco. These numbers are way out of there. We're much larger than this now. And then this is our company in China, which is also in a different location. But I just want to illustrate a little bit about the size of how we've grown over the years. As a company, do you have any questions so far?
No, this is wonderful. I love this, the narrative around the family. Congratulations, continue on. This is great.
This is a trailer we did last year. I can show you all kinds of cool stuff, but Blizzard's been such a great client. We still work with them. It's been 13 years. Basically, I turned my skill and my passion into a way where I found other like-minded artists that really loved games and art. And we built a whole company around that. So until blockchain hit, we were shipping on average of 70 games a year for 13 years. By my rough estimation, we've helped ship over 1,000 games.
Wow, that's quite impressive.
Everything you see on screen is a result of a ton of hard work. So if you remember Clash of Clans, like we did the 3D models that ran around in the Super Bowl commercials. We remember Heyday. I mean, these were some of our features that we created for Supercell and Heyday. What you're seeing on screen now, these are original concepts we did with the Fortnite team for Epic. I mean, of course, Fortnite's the biggest game in the world today. We started working with them 7 years ago. Marvel, I mentioned Marvel, Contest of Champions. The founders of this company is a company called Kabam, which is a legitimate Silicon Valley gaming unicorn. They're all in the blockchain space now. We work very closely with that team. So it's really fun right now for me, because we're about to talk about blockchain in a second, but all the things I was passionate about between art, culture, technology, the value of money, many of the entrepreneurs for the clients in my old way, and these are images from like 3 or 4 years ago, they're in blockchain now. So we get to grow into the next chapter of entertainment in digital entertainment. So.
Wow, congratulations. This is amazing. And actually, I'm a huge fan of a lot of these things. So a pleasure to be here, Double. So one question I have, and I kind of identify a lot with that part. So you are a creator, an entrepreneur, and an investor, and a technologist as well. So can you tell us how you've been shifting with all these hats? Because I know that is one part that most of the creators are struggling. And even the work I've been doing in this podcast, I feel that a lot of creators really are very bad on the digital side. So I would like to hear how you've been coping between all these different hats.
Well, that's a great question. When you mention creatives, I would have a very different thing to say to the creatives depending on their background or their interests. I will say that in the blockchain space and what we call Web3, there is something for everyone. So if you're a comic book person and you are creative and you want comics, you want to do visual storytelling, sequential art, you may follow a certain model. Eventually, it might lead you to something like CryptoPunks. If you're a fine artist and you want to do self-expression, you want to talk about, philanthropy or something, environmental consciousness, and you have work that represents itself, you may look at an artist like Drew Takawa, say Drew.net, right? She's a fine artist that converted to digital art. She has a very different path. If you're an artist who came from a background like my background, which is concept art, you're doing Star Wars, Matrix, you may look at an artist like Emmanuel Shui, who saw what blockchain meant to them, but your path is going to look very different. If you're a musician, your path is going to be different, okay? And the discovery of the new wave of art is also different. The common through line is they're all on Twitter or they're all on Clubhouse. Clubhouse, Twitter, and Discord is where you find your digital tribes. And your digital tribes will make or break you in this new web of Web3. So for me personally, I mean, it's hard to explain how long I've been in games, right? I've been doing art or managing art teams for 13, actually more than 13 years. I got into the blockchain space myself quite by accident. Of course, if I'm in Silicon Valley doing games, some of my top clients, thought leaders in the space, guys like Kevin Chu, Holly Liu, Yat Sui, who is the, I mean, these are people that came from gaming. Animoca CEO, Animoca is very famous today, but they've been in mobile gaming for over 10 years. You know, Kabam's been in mobile gaming for 10 years. They saw Web3. Of course, I'm going to hear them. One of our colleagues is Gala Games. The leader there was the co-founder at Zynga. They discovered it. So I hear buzzing, and they happen to be clients, and I have these dialogues which educate me along the way. So, but my formal entry came through blockchain co-investors. This is Matthew Lemerle, Allison Davis, they're the managing directors. Clark and I are founding partners. We started investing in the space quite casually during the ICO boom of 2017. When we saw the future of decentralization, we got in heavily in 2018. We formed our first fund. We're now on our third fund. It's an exceptionally well-performing fund. Our portfolio is quite amazing. It's 30 blockchain venture capitalists like Pantera, you'd already mentioned, Fabric, Blockchain Capital. And through that, we invested over 300 companies.
And we have Ave. Yeah.
So through getting to know the best entrepreneurs, the best blockchain venture capitalists, you learn things. And if I had no choice but to go in, to me.
So one question there that I'm particularly excited. So, and I think before we go more into the investment side, so how did you first get into blockchain? And you said 2017, 2016, which at the time I remember when blockchain investors started, it was quite cutting edge. And now, of course, it's mainstream, but at the time it was not mainstream. And there was a lot of resilience, although Silicon Valley was always a bit a step ahead and others. Yeah. But how did you get first your personal history with blockchain, being a creator as well?
I think there were two separate things happening at the same time. One was some companies we were already advisors and investors in saw blockchain. They saw ICOs as a way of crowdsourcing investment. And so we had to look into it because we're already involved in those companies. At the same time, I had a friend that I trust that used to work for me, my head of business development. She became a co-founder of blockchain investment that was into a blockchain company about gaming referrals. And that got my attention. They were so oversubscribed on Telegram, and there was just so much force behind it. I wasn't able to actively participate in that investment, but I knew that there was something really special about it. So I was already having conversations. The separate thing that happened was in December of 2017, was it? CryptoKitties happened.
Yeah.
And when CryptoKitties happened, it put a visual to how NFTs would create. And I had no way of predicting where NFTs would be today, but that's what originally incepted me. So my game development friends and I started thinking about what we can do with CryptoKitties. And of course, I had no way of predicting that 3 years later, Dapper Labs would lead our round, which we'll talk about at some point. But they were the original creators of CryptoKitties. So arguably, you can say they were the original NFT company. So the NFTs represented true digital ownership, and we just got into it. You know, I don't know. So we started early in 2017, and one investment led to another, and there was so much activity. The other thing that happened was we're fairly well connected in China. China is such a huge source of blockchain, both in development and in investment. But there was so much, let's say there's so much bad actors and money grabs in the blockchain space. Our Chinese investors wanted to know who the good projects were. So because of Matthew's access with his footprint, and Matthew and Allison and myself, we started referring what we consider really good projects. So from there, one of our earliest deals was actually with a Filecoin. We ended up this time last year, I know we're not at investments yet, but My colleagues and I were managing $250 million of Filecoin assets, but we got in very early. We got in very early with Polkadot, with Filecoin, not on the seed level, but certainly early enough to see the potential and help bridge Chinese and worldwide investors with US projects.
Well, that's quite impressive, because someone that is a creator and is managing all of these things, I take my hat in double ways. So from one question I have, and I think, of course, we'll come back to your investment. I know that you raised recently $25 million, but before that, just a bit of, so from this shift from directly a creator of global powerhouse games, to then go to, let's say in 2017, although there was a lot of money involved, the blockchain industry was still very niche. It's still very niche compared with games like you're doing for Star Wars or Marvel. I've been playing, because you kept always working in multi-billion dollars games, or at least chancels. How do you been shifting between these worlds, the mainstream industry of creative industries and then the blockchain? That it was very emergent, now is mainstream. But let's say 5 years ago, it was not so mainstream as it is now.
That's a great question. It was slow, and then it happened super fast. So I'll share a little bit. This is our company website, Concept Art House. So for most of our history, it's traditional games, not blockchain games. Up until the end of last year, the art business was doing great. I've already mentioned some of my projects. Most of these companies are already doing extremely well in the traditional game space. Magic the Gathering, NBA 2K franchise, Fortnite, and we're doing all this work. Most of them have not moved into blockchain. I've been talking about how powerful decentralization and true digital ownership for years. My colleagues include Sandbox, with Sebastian and Arthur, who are the co-founders. My colleagues include the Forte team, which was founded by Kevin Chu, right? They were the former Kabam people, but they are more crypto natives. So it wasn't until this year when NBA Top Shots happened and all the NFT movement happened that I knew that our future for Concept Art House would be in Web3. So our first blockchain projects were, let's see, we did a project with Frank Miller for Sin City. We did a project for some top artists on Nifty Gateway. We did some projects with Enway, which is another Animoca company. And in the beginning, we were just doing art. This is early 2021, so just about 11 months ago as of this conversation. Between that time and now, we have basically stopped all traditional game work except for very few select clients like Roblox and Call of Duty and a couple of really AAA game developers. Everything else we do now is Web3 because we believe it's the future.
So that's a bold statement.
It was very hard. I don't want to just, I mean, I'm live on interview, so I'll just tell you, we have top 5 developers come to us for Concept Art House saying, we need your art. Can you help our game? And our response is, unless you're in Web3, the answer is probably no. We are all in a Web3, and we haven't looked back since.
So James, I think one question I have, because of course for you and me, this is kind of the way, but a lot of people, I speak with investors every day and people are still struggling to understand this. So can you explain in a simple way, especially for the creators listening to us, because I think there's still a lot of great young creators and schools don't teach this. And I know that you have a very strong passion for education. You mentioned already that you are on the board of the school. So a bit of how do you define the Web3 for people listening to us, but especially within your industry? Because I think I can speak about this for hours, but I want to hear it from your side.
Yeah, how do I explain this? So there's a lot of great talks about this. For me, there's a couple of transformative moments, okay? So let me give you an example. When I was an artist working on Blizzard, I would draw something by hand, right? I'm old. When I finished that drawing, Blizzard was okay, and Dungeons and Dragons was okay for me to sell that original piece of art. Since almost most of the people in my space doing concept art now is digital, they had no way of selling that digital piece of art because it's just a JPEG. It's just a TIFF, right? The blockchain technology is such that there's a public ledger that attaches unique code to digital art. And that changes everything. Because if you're a digital artist, you can now provide uniqueness. You know, when you go into any art gallery, if they have a Picasso etching, it might be a 1 of 50, 1 of 100. If it was unlimited, it would just be a poster. So that's just one entry point into this, okay? And then if you're a collector of some kind, I used to collect comic books, and like, can you see, this is a pack of Magic the Gathering cards. Same thing. If you think about sports collectibles, now there are digital collectibles. And people are like, what? You're paying how much money for a digital collectible? Why? I would respond by saying, well, how much do you think in America we have baseball cards, like Ken Griffey Jr. baseball card, how much is that worth to you? And they would say, well, I don't know, probably a lot of money. Michael Jordan rookie card, how much is that? Well, it's just a piece of cardboard. No, if it's authentic, people will pay money for it because it's scarce. So the technology allows artists to create scarce digital content, and that is transformative.
I think it's a great, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to elaborate a little more. This is a good point, yeah.
Okay. So that is, you want me to elaborate? I'm happy to.
Yes, yeah, no, this is great. I think you put it in a very, very powerful way. And please listen to us, listen to James, and continue.
Yeah. So if you're a comic book artist, now, if you look at a website like Webtoons, so those of you that know about digital comics, you know, you pay the subscription model, you read the comics, you have to rely on that platform, right? But as a comic book artist, you know, if it's just reading the materials, there's no scarcity. You can't collect a digital comic. So the consumers aren't able to pay a lot of money for an original comic. Whereas for me, you know, I have all these copies of X-Men #1 that was drawn by Jim Lee and Chris Claremont. We believe those were limited edition. Therefore, there's a secondary market that can invest and buy those comics. Now with blockchain, you have things like Punk's comics that have special utility. You know, now you can buy, okay, well, everybody can read the digital story, but only these 50 comics are specially endorsed and digitally signed by the comic creators themselves. That's a transformative idea. So if you want to learn about this, you can you can follow me on Twitter, but there's better people to follow than me on Twitter and listen to Clubhouse. This is what people are talking about.
This is really powerful. There's a quote from yours that I want to use here, and as well I want to use this. So you mentioned in VentureBeat when they talk about your raise of $25 million, that the combination, and this is your quote, the combination of the fan community and the art is what gives NFTs their value. So can you elaborate on this? Because this is kind of part of what you just said, but this explores another level, because and a company like yours can have a power much bigger than just the creation and even selling the NFTs, but as well having an entire community that you control exactly for this. But I want to see how you're building as well the second iteration of the concept Art House, which right now you are leading.
Yes, of course. So much of this is tied to the community. The whole point of decentralization is the promise of it is you give power to the people that are consuming your product. So there's a voting potentially of what happens. And through channels like Discord and Twitter, you get to have a say, you get to participate in the project. So if you take something like Bored Ape Yacht Club, for example, it's not just about buying that image of the ape, is what it represents. And there's so many different categories for this. You know, Bored Ape was really a revolutionary project. Here, I'll show you our company Ape. This is our own vault. If you ever get a chance, take a look on Open to see what people are buying and the stories behind them. They're all unique. And almost all of these NFTs, some of these go for a lot of money, right? They all stand for different reasons. The apes have taken a whole life of its own. But what it represented, for you to be an early ape holder, like this project just launched in April, it became worth like $100 million or something. In the beginning, it was like, buy this ape. There's only 10,000 of them. There's only one. Everybody that has one is unique. But when you get that ape, you belong to our club. When you come into our club, only you can go into this digital bathroom, which is a real thing. And in that digital bathroom, you can participate on the collaborative piece of art. And we're going to give you different surprise and delights. So almost every project is like their own club. They kind of helped create this original model. And since then, it's been duplicated and repeated, but all of them are unique on their own. Some of them talk about philanthropy. If you collect my NFTs, these proceeds go to this cause. This is Oniforce. If you participate in their drop, they surprise you with various things and they give you a comic book later on. I have an NFT. This is some of my personal collection. I found out later, after having purchased this one, that if I have this carousel, I can redeem it for free tickets to Disneyland. They surprised me with that. I thought that was so fun. You know, it's so, this is a car I bought into a metaverse called Wilder World. It's so AAA and cool. I think when they come out with a game, I can drive this car in this world. So you're selling art that has a use case, but it just allows for such creativity. This is a project that became really famous. It's 8,888 unique mechas, and their tagline is "Drivers Wanted." So they have a whole roadmap of the cool things you get. So it's art plus other things. So we are not only creators of the art, we're participants. Now, how do these projects grow? If you go to the Twitter for any one of these, there's a lot of people talking about it, right? But we don't know each other, but through this project, we're connected. We say, hey, developers, we want this. Hey, developer, what's going on? And the developer responds, or the artist responds.
Now, this is super cutting edge, and as well, it's something that I've been preaching here on this series, and as well on my real experience. So one of the things that I'm particularly interested, James, and for the sake of our audience as well, is how do you do the intersection between the NFTs, the art and gaming, but as well from a collector you just mentioned, from a businessman, but as well as a conceptualist, because I think the challenge right now is, like you said, for you and me, we are within this and we are deep within this. But for people that are from outside, how do you get into this? Of course, you have to start with Twitter, but it's kind of you have to drown completely. It's like the red pill and the blue pill of Matrix, which ironically is coming now. Actually, I wrote an article about that. But can you tell us a bit, how do you see this new iteration? Because your company right now with the new funding, and probably can tell us about this funding and how you want to take it forward. Probably is a good idea to explain to people around us.
So there's something different for everyone. And you have to put, so I'm specifically looking at NFTs. Blockchain itself is a whole other thing, okay? So just looking at the NFT space, I kind of put them into three major categories. Group one is your unique one of one. This is pure fine art. This is like Beeple's 5,000 Days. This is like Drew's Pass the Tests. It's a giant, awesome heart that she created, matched her own heartbeat. She did that with Industrial Light and Magic. Unique one of one, that is about culture. That's, I was there, I bought that piece. Everybody can see I bought that piece and it stood for something. Okay, one of one. Super Rare would be a place to go to for that. Nifty Gateway. Blau, the famous DJ, did several unique NFTs around music and audio. That's the first group. Second is cool collectible projects. They're kind of like games, but not really. Right now, we call it PFP projects, picture for proof. We also call them generative avatar projects. To be honest, it's getting a little bit flooded, but the idea there is kind of surprise and delight. The thesis is many of us have what I call a collector gene. You like to collect things. You want to be part of something. I grew up collecting, like I said, comics and things like that. So it's collecting things. NBA Top Shots falls under that category. People want to collect things alongside Mark Cuban and LeBron James, Steph Curry. I want to have this thing. Oh, you have that thing. That's amazing. And some of those things lead to other things like Disneyland tickets for me. Those are collectibles. The third would be games. And in gaming, this is highly, highly disruptive. I'm a gamer myself. I've played all kinds of games. It's my industry. I remember around 2004 to 6, I played World of Warcraft pretty much nonstop. And at one point, I became so busy as an executive that I just didn't have enough time to get gold. So I had to buy gold on a secondary market on eBay. Well, that was me paying for in-game digital assets, you know. But imagine if you had a way to mine these digital currencies and exchange them for real money. That's a real way of making a living. So a game like Axie Infinity has figured that out and turned it upside down. I would also look at Gala games. So the new way for the gaming community is, what if you can play the game and actually earn money? They don't openly talk about earning money. What you're earning is value. You play the games, accrue value, but that value for a lot of people is worth money. And so because of that, you have spin-off projects. And I'm telling you, this is so disruptive right now. There's another game called So Rare. It's about collecting your favorite soccer athletes, put them in a lineup and see if they win or not. It's like fantasy soccer. And this game has generated tremendous revenues. They just took a $680 million round investment on a $4 billion valuation behind what we call a play to earn model. I want to double click there for one more minute. Okay, for people that are new to the space, I'll give you a hypothetical, right? Why is Facebook worth what they're worth? One of the most valuable companies in the world. It's free. Oh, they would say because of the advertising. Well, why the advertising? Well, because they have the users. So let me get this straight. So the users, it means every time I've clicked on a video, posted, commented on something, I'm creating value to Facebook. But last time I checked, Facebook never sent me a check. So all of us together helped make Facebook and Google the most valuable companies in the world. And they said, we're free, right? But no, there's actually a value for all of that attention you give it. So blockchain gives it the ability to turn everything around. What if every time you clicked on a browser and instead of you going to Google, you go to Brave and you clicked on an ad? What if you get paid for that ad instead of Google? What if you get paid for that like instead of Facebook? So I'm oversimplifying this, but that's the core thesis. And in games, it's the same way. It's the attention and value.
No, this is amazing. And I think you put it in I think it's oversimplified, but I think it's really, you went to the nitty gritty importance of this, because I think the challenge right now is how this can create value for everyone. And I think people like you are leading the way, but as well, you have a component of education, a component of experience, and as well, you have a portfolio that is unique. Not a lot of people have your portfolio in the planet. So I think coming back to your company, and I think some of the things you guys are doing. So you have quite a unique spot, because like you are right now getting to that direction. You have the head of investor, the head of a creator, the head of the technologist, and the head of the community and the industry network. So let's right now looking at an helicopter view, because of course, there's so much opportunities here, but there's a lot of challenges as well. So what would be the challenge and the opportunities that you look when you talk about the industry right now? Because I think that's my main point right now. I always try to think young generations, and as well, you touch Facebook, that right now, of course, transform itself in Meta, at least the core company. And of course, Mark Zuckerberg has been putting the narrative, and I don't want to go into politics versus him, but I'm just interested to see that one of the biggest companies in the world, of course, Netflix right now is an entire gaming section. Google, of course, as well as these things. But all of these companies, like you said, they are, in one end, more powerful than ever, and probably the most organizations in the planet, more powerful than actually almost any country in the world. And at the same time, we are all dependent on that. But when it comes to the industry and as well, probably the ecosystem of crypto, according to data from NFT Go, which is one of the platforms as well, most important in terms of data, with a Bloomberg of NFTs, there's around close to 700,000 active NFT users. But the world is much bigger than 700,000 people. And as well, if you look at all the crypto people using crypto around the world, we're talking about 3 to 10 million people maximum. And actually, from this, probably 80% have around £200 maximum, $200 or $300 in their wallets. So there's still a lot of work to scale, although we have all this. For instance, Ethereum right now is bigger than most of the banks in the world as a unique valuation. So we have already kind of a blurred between the Web 1.0, the Web 2.0, and the Web 3.0 that is in its inception. But the mass scale is still in early days. So how do you see this being one of the first global companies being funded to go to the bridge and to go radically in the Web 3.0?
Great question. I can show you some. That was also a lot.
Yeah, sorry, it's a big question.
I'll tell you how we're uniquely positioned right now. Given our history and track record, helping ship 1,000 games, we've made a lot of friends through that era. So we have 3 groups that we're currently working with that we're at the intersection of. Group 1 are gaming companies that want to get into play to earn. They typically need a few things. They need funding. They need to understand what NFT design looks like, play to earn design looks like. They need communities. They need access to protocol. They need access to more Web3 talent. So group 1, traditional game companies. Group 2, brilliant crypto companies that need scale. Most of your projects right now are still developed by small teams that are really smart and really agile. 1 or 2 artists, a designer, and an engineer or 2. When Ubisoft just recently launched that they're getting into NFT space, when the larger brands get into this, they're going to need fully utilized teams. You already know the sports world, like the NFT, like NFLs and NBAs of the world, have already gotten into NFTs. They need talent density, which I believe we provide. Third is we're interested in working with top celebrities that want an NFT solution. And by celebrity, I mean artist, I mean creator, I mean writer, I mean just brilliant people. So we've already been doing that. We've done 4 sold out drops so far this year. We have 14 in progress right now. We have a pipeline of over 20 other projects. Some of these are metaverse projects. Some of these are gamers. Some of these are crypto natives. So we're in a position to be an NFT solution. So we're your NFT partner. If you think about NFTs, vast majority of NFTs, excluding Twitter, excluding Twitter memes and audio, they're all represented by artwork. We're the kind of company we would like to take and be a small part of your journey. So if you're a game, we might do NFTs for you in exchange for revenue share. We do work just for NFTs. If you're a tokenized project, we'll do work for tokens. We become a small part of your project. We're totally aligned, NFT solutions. Let me give you a couple of examples. I'll move really quickly and we can double click later on. So if you want to know how healthy a game or a project is doing, I encourage you to check out CryptoSlam, which is another one of our investments. Axie Infinity, look at how many transactions and how many owners of Axies there are. If you look at NBA Top Shot, by today's standards, is top 5, 600,000 transactions, 13 million transactions, 615,000 owners. These are fully fledged teams now, 50 plus developers. But these other ones, Cool Cats, Meebits, many of these are quite small. Mechaverse, these are small teams. So this is just the beginning. We play a part. If these guys ever want to create a Cool Cats metaverse, we're there for you. Let me give you an example of celebrities. We did a drop with a famous, legendary comic book artist named Frank Miller. He's the creator of 300, of Sin City, and he basically is the guy that made Batman: The Dark Knight. We helped his NFT get sold for $840,000. It's an amazing process. We love Frank. Our partner on this was Gala Games. So Frank, he wanted to access a new digital native audience that he didn't have the ability to do so. Frank is already rich and famous, but he has this pool of talent. So we were able to help him with Gala Games to bring the Frank Miller experience into the NFT universe. We want to do more of that. An example of a crypto native team that we're partnered with, I want to point you to Genopets. This is a very savvy 3-person team. They're blockchain natives. And we started working with them before they even finished their round because they knew they were going to need to scale up their production. What they are the Pokemon Go for blockchain. I mean, think about how powerful that is. But they need somebody to help them crank out hundreds of really cute, awesome NFT pets. So they partner with us to represent scale for them. We want to do this everywhere in 2022. And that's kind of our business model. Whether you're a groundbreaking like celebrity artist, somebody that's in our core thesis, whether you're a crypto native team that needs scale, or whether you're a traditional game company that wants to get into Web3 space.
Fantastic. This is kind of amazing what you guys are doing, and really take my hat to all of this. So I know that you have around probably more 10 minutes, but I still have 2 questions or so if possible. So one of the questions that I want to touch is so we touch about the shift that is going through the Web 2.0 to Web 3.0 and all the challenges that are going on. But let's go back to the metaverse. So, and the metaverse and the NFTs. At least for me, the NFTs are a bit one of the keys for the metaverse. But how do you see the metaverse? Because in the end of the day, you are already an example of the metaverse. But I want to go a bit more of the different iterations, the different things that can come out of everything you're doing, but as well the component of the day-to-day impact in our lives, because everyone in some way or the other is actually playing games, having entertainment, shifting from digital to offline and things like that. But they are very confused when you talk about metaverse. Like you said, even some of your big clients are still not getting the Web 3.0, which is an opportunity and a challenge as well. So I would like to hear your views on the metaverse.
Oh my God. Yeah. You got all the good questions. I talk about this. Okay. See, Dinis, I'm a sci-fi nerd. Like,
yes, in a good
way.
I'll
just go. I actually did a whole YouTube segment with a metaverse expert, John Radoff. And if I can shamelessly plug, go to YouTube, just, Google my name, John. We do a whole hour-long session. There's visuals. I have so many opinions on this. I've been participating and consuming metaverses since the original phrase was coined. So there's an author named Neil Stephenson who phrased metaverse, of course. He is actually a client of ours, and he's a really cool guy. I can't share anymore, but he's been on the sidelines for a long time because he created the phrase and kind of gave all of us sci-fi nerds what a metaverse could be, okay? So I think most recently, the best cinematic depiction of a metaverse is Ready Player One. So people who want to understand metaverse and haven't gotten in, you have to at least watch the movie, but even better, read the book. That's a great depiction of it. The best functioning metaverse that we have today, in my opinion, is Roblox. Okay, it's a place where people interact, can create commerce, entertainment, and just deeply connect and express themselves. Matthew Ball is a well-known VC and writer. He breaks it down, but you have to be able to do a few things in the metaverse. Yes, expression, creativity, connection, and commerce. That's what a good metaverse is supposed to do. I think the promise of a fully fleshed world where all of those things are possible is exactly what Mark Zuckerberg was trying to do with Meta. The Web3 people are really afraid of that, because if he is successful at it, it means he's king of the world. For me personally, I actually think he has enough talent and resources to execute a really great experience. I also think his intentions are probably good, but when you have that much power, I'm afraid of what the consequences could be. So I believe the metaverse should be decentralized. So Web3 metaverse looks a whole lot different. There's a lot of people going for it. I would encourage you to look at what Sebastian Arthur are doing with Sandbox, what Decentraland's doing, what Wilder World is doing. Wilder World is trying to be the first really AAA looking metaverse, and they're doing a great job so far. So there's a lot of projects out there I can already point you to. I think I have different comments, whether you're an investor in the space, whether you're a creator in the space. I think I did this quote when looking at the Nike metaverse or Microsoft looking at metaverse. I think if I'm an investor into metaverse, I would be very skeptical to invest in a single metaverse. Rather, I would invest in the tools and the picks and the axes for the metaverse. So all metaverse are going to need certain things, right? They need everything from, like, if you picture something AAA, I know AAA, it's really hard to create. I would bet on the content maker. I would bet on the person who's going to solve chat across metaverse. The person that's going to solve QA in the metaverse and what that looks like. An easy fiat ramp into the metaverse. And there's a lot of companies focused on those specific segments that I think all metaverses are going to need. I have so many things to say about this. I think the other paradigm, the other gear shift that's very challenging is when you talk to sci-fi nerds and everyday consumers, myself included, when you picture metaverse, you picture something like Ready Player One, really AAA immersive, like you go in there, you can see dinosaurs. That is really hard to do. Not only is it hard to do, there's very little room for creative expression in those universes. It's actually a lot of skill and talent that creates something, makes it AAA. Adults have a trouble embracing Roblox and Minecraft because they don't look right, but the kids understand it because what those worlds represent is like a box of Legos. what you get is a lot of great UGC content and creativity, but you don't get that AAA experience. So the future metaverse is going to try to offer both. How can I get great UGC, user-generated content and creativity? And how can I get that AAA? No one has done that yet. So there's something in it for everybody. If you want more creative, you have to look at the Sandbox, Decentraland, Roblox, Minecraft. If you want more AAA, you're talking more like Fortnite. You're talking about Wilder World. You're talking about these really fleshed out experiences, even World of Warcraft to some extent. Not even that anymore, but you can't get both right now. So.
No, I love the different layers that you put on this, because this is about layers, and I think I subscribe completely what you said about we don't want. You said that Mark Zuckerberg can become the king of the world, but he's probably already the king of the world. He has more power than any country in the planet, and he's still the major shareholder, at least the board member with most of authorizations on Facebook. So imagine if you go to the new level, you would be as well the king of our dreams. So one of the questions I have here, and probably the last one, I don't know how much time you have, but so when it comes to decentralization, we touched that in the top level. So could you go a bit more linear? How do you see that? Because I think, especially for people listening to us, I think most of people have no understanding about how the internet, especially how the internet works, but much less how blockchain works. And how can we create a system of governance between all these ecosystems, like you mentioned, the different metaverse? Because in the end of the day, these metaverses are already present. Let's be, in a certain way, Facebook, Google, YouTube, and all these platforms are already kind of metaverses. Of course, centralized metaverses, and of course, not with all this cutting edge creativity that we're talking here, but in some ways they are. Of course, you don't need the AR glasses anymore to go to a metaverse, because things are blurred and we start our phone in the morning is already having all of these different things. So I would like to touch this part of decentralization, and being you a big expert as well in blockchain and being working with some of the blockchain experts worldwide, how can we make that happen? Because I think we are still very far from that. And for me, one of the notices as well is that like we criticize the crypto or the fiat world, in the crypto world as well, most of the wallets are controlled by 2% of the rest of the wallets. Yeah. So we still have the same problems we have in the real kind of conventional fiat world. We have it in the same crypto world, or even worse, because the manipulation is much easier to do. And when it comes to the technology, it's very difficult to create really a governance system. And I was as well involved in around 10 tokens. And I saw that even the ones I created, that the governance was, in the end of the day, who has the control of the wallet controls everything else, independent of what you say. So I just would like to hear your opinions on this.
Yeah, I don't have a great answer for you. I'm not sure if anyone does, because this is so new. Do you talk about DAOs in your interviews?
Yes, I interview a couple of them, and I was involved in the first one. Now Ethereum.
Yeah. It's hard to think about this impermanence, that you potentially have to put a system of governance in there forever. So the process, for people relatively new to it, it's like, there's a whole belief that there shouldn't be this much centrally located power. The whole thing about DeFi and CeFi. DeFi, of course, is decentralized finance, and GameFi is gaming finance. Most of these projects start off with a centralized, because there has to be some creators of the project. You create the tokens as a tool for future inclusion. You use it as a fundraising tool. You use it as a way of rewarding your own people. The idea is there's a rollout stage. In the beginning, you control the product, you sell the product, you talk about the product is, okay? And you set up appropriate algorithms to show how someone might earn the tokens. And the tokens may or may not be worth value, which is a whole other SEC conversation. I can't believe we went for like a whole hour without talking about regulations, by the way. But that's the way these organizations are set up. I have an idea, say it's the artist DAO, but artists are going to be like, well, what do I do in it? So you have to set up the basic framework, right? The whole thing that makes it legal at this time and inclusive in DeFi at this time is you have a future plan to turn this organization over to the governance of it. The challenge of it that no one has figured out yet, because we're only on month 9, you have protocols that have figured it out to some degree, but in terms of an organized group like a DAO, you have to manage this thing for, if there's enough interest behind the holders of token for years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. How do you design a system that works like that What if a lot of people hate it and some people like it? You know, what happens? So those are the questions that are still being explored very much right now. And so if you're new to this, you have to look at some of the pioneers in the space. I would direct you to look at Friends with Benefits. They give you special access to Discord channels. Those tend to be crypto natives that really, that really studied DAO. So they're one of the first ones that achieved some sort of mass market scale. I'd also look at Cultural DAO, which is a DAO around Culture DAO. It's a culture token. It's around virtual beings. But if you look at like the precedent of protocols, Near just recently turned the governance of the Near foundations and the tokens into their ecosystem. That was a whole rollout plan. Mainnet launch, decentralization, turn it over to the governance. So Near is another protocol I would look at. So I don't have a better answer for you than it's new, but it is important. I think I have one other point I want to make, which was kind of like an eyeball moment for me on my journey. I want to talk about like why all of this blockchain, all of these tokens are worth so much money, right? And what's going on with all of that from my perspective. And I'm going to break it down to what I think is, okay, so if you look at Bitcoin and you look at the arc of Bitcoin and why it was there in the first place, it was because of frustrations with the financial system. There has to be a better way to exchange value. Money is probably one of the single greatest creations of mankind because it's everybody knows what the dollar bill or the pound looks like. It's a form of trust. It's a single greatest form of trust. So Bitcoin went from this whole arc of being ludicrous to being really angry because it's not real money, it's internet money, to now if you own Bitcoin, you're smart because it's worth so much money, you can no longer ignore the power and the influence of it, right? That arc only took about 10 years, which is not long. So what's happening right now in the DeFi space, there is a certain group of people that believe, hey, now the financial institutions are buying huge chunks of Bitcoin. Wait a minute, Bitcoin was supposed to be a sign of the revolution. It was supposed to be, it was supposed to be a pushback against the regulated way of doing banking. So now if this tool of the revolution is being owned by the system itself, the system gets stronger. So that conflict is still happening. So what I heard that stuck out in my mind is NFTs are actually a little bit different, right? When you own a CryptoPunk or an ape, it means something. It means you're either a pioneer in the space or you paid a lot of money to own this very special NFT, so you can be part of this tribe. But the difference in NFTs versus the Bitcoin space, you can decide to hold on to the NFT and not sell it. Therefore, you hold on to the tools of the revolution.
I think you nail it fantastically, and I think it's a powerful journey the way you're trying to look at these things. And I agree completely with you that there's not one answers it all. It's a conclusion and an hybrid mix between the different things. Yeah,
DeFi is important, but I don't think it's going to replace the agility and the decision making of centralized governance, but there should be room for both. That's my opinion for now. I can change my mind next week.
No, completely. Can you hear me? So I just changed the headphones. My headphones run out of battery. There's another thing as well. The technology only goes until a certain point. But I think DeFi is a key element, definitely. Yeah. So coming back to your art, and of course we could go for hours. My last probably remate, and I know that you have limited time. So in terms of your creative, fantastic work and body of work, and as well your company. So for people listening to us, of course, you raised recently $25 million of funding. You've been working as well with some of the leading, like Frank Miller. I think you don't need the presentation for people like Frank Miller, Star Wars, Marvel, and all the wonderful things you did. But you are still on the cutting edge, and you are on the I would say surfing the biggest waves in the planet in terms of innovation, technology, and funding. So, what would be your dream right now as a creator? That you would like to live both as a creator, let's say in 50 years from now, 100 years, it would be like, okay, I achieved this and I'm proud of this, but I would like to have done this. So it would be like really the cutting edge statement that you would like to do with everything you're doing right now.
I would love for Concept Art House to have our own community. I would love for, whether it comes in the form of a token or a membership of some kind, but I would love to have our own community that's highly inclusive of brilliant art and creativity. And I just want to reward the heck out of this fan base for participating. I want to connect some of the best projects in the world through amazing art. Like I said, just in the short term, it's very hard to see long term in this space, but if I dare to dream, I would love to help ship 100 awesome projects next year. Pokemon on one side, the Call of Duty of Web3, you know, the Breath of the Wild for Web3, the best RPG in Web3, bringing some famous authors into it. And I want to have it tied together through something we create and give to everyone. For example, if you're part of our concept verse, let's just call it, I would love to have everybody get your own spaceship or your own dragon. And if you're an artist, I want to give you a room to create these things and create value for yourself. And at some point, we'll touch on games, and I want you to play our games and be part of the game and have a way to reward yourself. We may not be the only ones doing this, but we're the only ones that come from an art origins since we were kids. And the people in my company that are driving this business see the things that I see. The connecting points between culture and value and fun. We like to have fun. I want to give things that are fun that people will remember and enjoy. It's not just about the money. The money is a byproduct of the fun and the joy and the art. And I hope that that message lasts. I don't think fun is talked enough about in Web3. I think there's so much money grab and power to be had. That word doesn't come up very often, and I try to bring it up. So hopefully that can resonate in our message.
Well, beautiful and inspiring. And I don't have doubts that you're going to create this community. You're already creating the community with 1,000 games on your portfolio and much more coming. And as well, millions of people around the world playing your fantastic creativity, but as well, all the art and the engine that you put on this. It's been a wonderful honor to have you here, James. I'm very grateful. And as well, I'm looking at all the fantastic, and I urge everyone listening to us to go to James Zhang and look at this creativity art concept house. We put all the links here in the interview. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, engage as much as possible, but especially look at the games and the fantastic creativity that comes of it. Some of you probably play with it without knowing. I think everyone in one way or the other was involved on this. James, it's really a fantastic. Congratulations for this amazing work.
Yeah. You're doing some amazing work. I very much appreciate you. Thank you.
And our honor is mine. Okay, cheers. Thank you so much.